And so I don't have to disagree with any of those evolutionary accounts to say that maybe there's more to it.
That you think that God was involved with the development of humans. How would you convince Nathan Lentz, your co-author on the review of my book, that that's a reasonable conclusion?
Well, I'd start by agreeing with you. I'd start by agreeing with you. All three of us are in agreement that there is no biochemical case to be made for design in human evolution. All three of us agree with that. I would also agree, you see evidence for common descent from chimpanzees. We all agree with you. You, me, and him all agree. So how am I going to make the case that it was God involved? Well, I would want to make that case. But let me just start with that common ground. That common ground builds a lot of trust. I hope I'm not misrepresenting you, but I think you actually agree with me on that. I mean, most of your evidence comes from bacterial systems and, yeast systems and, malaria and all that. But in human evolution, you don't think that you can actually look and tell. So, but that doesn't mean God wasn't there and God didn't do something, right? It just, it just means that those arguments are harder to make when you're looking at that distinction.
I understand. Yeah, I addressed that specifically in Edge of Evolution.
Yes, so this is the point of like major common ground, man. So let me agree with you. All right.
I said that there aren't any biochemical, but there certainly are behavioral and intellectual profound differences between people and primates. And that I said
that some of these differences are also mystery.
There's no reason to think that Darwinian processes or other unguided, non-intelligent
You're not even letting me agree with you, and I'm trying. You asked me how to convince him. You're going off to something else. You're telling me how your point of view. You want me to know how I'm going to convince him. So I'm telling you, like, that's a massive place of common ground that you actually have with Nathan Lentz, and I have with him too. Okay. And so, let's just start with that common ground. And the next thing I would do is tell him the exact way I came to believe that. I would tell him that I encountered Jesus, saw the evidence that he rose from the dead. I came to believe and trust him. I came to trust scripture when I see what scripture teaches about humans. And it seems to make a great deal of sense that God is involved. When you look at how different we are from other animals, even though we're so continuous with them, that paradox is a puzzle that has to be worked out. And, this is something that scientists have been grappling with for a while, for a long time. And I think there are evolutionary accounts of it, but I'm not satisfied that any of them are the whole story. And so I don't have to disagree with any of those evolutionary accounts to say that maybe there's more to it. And that's essentially, your position, Mike. And I think that's a strong position.
I don't think we have the same position. I am looking for physical, biological evidence that some transformation or some biological feature required purposeful design. I don't think you're doing that. What feature between chimps and humans would you tell Nathan Lentz led you to believe that God was involved in making one from the other?
Well, I think I'm using evidence in a different way, because I can definitely point to very subjective pieces of evidences about our differences. I think humans are, exceptional, or, I don't want to say unique precisely, but there's something very different about us, and a very, it's a way it's hard to characterize, like what it means to be human. I don't think if aliens came to Earth, they would be wondering, well, what does it mean to be a dog? I think they'd be wondering, like, what's different about humans? They're not going to be wondering about what's different about cows or all that. They're going to be wondering about what's different about humans. I think that's objective. I think it's a little bit hard for scientists to appreciate that. He's written a book called Not So Different, where he gets into how we're very similar. And I would actually agree. We are far more similar than most people realize, but we're also far more different. And, language is a great example of that. You're a Catholic, you talk about the rational soul. That's a very solid reason. There's something that's happened. Even Chomsky, who was not a Christian, really argued that there had to be a large step change in our language capacity. All that's there. Now, none of that proves that evolutionary mechanisms couldn't do it. But what we do know is that we have an N of 1. N of 1 is a statement that we say as scientists, where we just have one example of a species. If you look at great apes, we all started out at about the same place. And there's maybe like 4 species of, apes/humans alive today. And
well,
only one of us
I
got to
just
be anything with
disagree.
human condition. That should be a puzzle.
The final chapter of my last book, Darwin Devolves, was exactly about the differences in intelligence, in rationality, and so on between humans and other creatures. And I argued explicitly, I'm sure you remember, that Darwinism can't account for that. And if you deny you have a real mind, as many Darwinists
let's just slow
do,
down a bit to say
then you lose your grip on reality.
But let me just.
So I just want to mention that I have considered all of these topics, and
but look, I just want to
come to different
that
conclusions.
this is a strong philosophical argument to consider, or like a suggestive thing, but it's not actually an airtight scientific argument. There's particular rules in science, and this doesn't actually satisfy it. It's an N of one, like I said, and I don't think that that's a problem. I just think it's something that God's put there that's just a puzzle for us to figure out. I don't think science can give a complete answer to this question.